calling from Covina, California, and I have a question. As far as I'm not a very educated person, um, I'm pretty much educated by the hard knocks of life. Pretty much is what I like to tell my kids.
It's the very best
Um,
school there is, sir.
I have a thing about learning in the past 4 years. Ever since COVID, or 5 years, ever since COVID, had a lot of time learning about politics, trying to learn about politics. Not very educated in it, but all this money that Doge is finding, why did not our government not utilize that money for Social Security, um, Medicaid, Medicare? I mean, I understand there's worldly things that need to be taken care of and everything, but I just kind of feel like shouldn't it be staying at home and kind of helping people?
Yeah, brilliant question, Hector. Brilliant. There's lots of ways to answer it. Dan, take the first crack at it. But you're right on point, and I'll say again what I say almost every day. You're speaking for tens of millions of people with that question. Dan.
Absolutely, Hector. It's so obvious that nobody did it. I think the answer is the budget is so big, trillions of dollars, and members of Congress over the years stuff in little parochial pet issues on the committees that they serve on. So again, I'm going to come back to this because it's the headline $50 million for condoms in Mozambique or wherever it was, right? Somebody had the idea that there was a reason for it. Maybe AIDS was out of control or HIV, and they're very passionate about life expectancy in Africa, right? Just to be charitable here. And it piles up and it piles up. And everybody says in Washington, boy, there's so much wasteful spending. It's terrible. We have debt and deficit. But by the way, here's my new pet project. We're not going to cut. We're just going to add and add and add and add. And Trump, to his credit, and Musk are the first people to stand up and just say, time out. This is appalling how much of this there is. And we are going to highlight it and shame people into kind of, supporting us. The challenge is what Doge is doing so far is really just nicking around the edges of 1% to 2% of spending. Ultimately, they're going to have to go towards things like the Department of Defense and places where, 20, 30% of spending lies. But to your point, it is embarrassing as a Democrat, and I think even amongst Republicans, that nobody had the courage or the balls to put this on the table. Because if I highlighted your spending, you were going to highlight mine. So it was mutually assured destruction. So everyone said, don't do it.
So there's two pieces to this. First of all, it's an absolutely great question because it touches on so much of how our government operates. So there's Dan did a great job of explaining the congressional piece of this. There's earmarks for a variety of reasons. Somebody at some point thought they were doing something good, or frankly, and sometimes, so there's a good chunk of it that's good. I want to help alleviate a problem, and I believe this is the best way to do it. I may totally disagree with it, but then there's the other part of the congressional thing, which is I have a contractor in my district who wants to take over this thing, and so I'm going to help them get it. Then there's the agency piece of this. So in the last decade plus, more and more of what Congress has done is given, and so remember, just to give you some background, for the longest time, it became a dirty word to say the word earmark, which was that a member of Congress said, this spending, this $10 million, I'm going to earmark it for this project, this agency, this whatever, right? Because I want this money to go whatever. That became a dirty word in Washington for a long time because a lot of examples where my donor, my friend is getting this. So they the Republican conference on the House side basically made a rule that said you can't earmark money. What happened when that happened? Well, they gave money to the agencies and said, here's your $1 billion USAID. You go appropriate it. Maybe we'll lobby you, but then you get to decide. So then some bureaucrat said, oh, I think that, in Dan's case, alleviating AIDS or some life expectancy problems in Mozambique or wherever, and my solution to do this is X. Or some dude comes in, and this is a whole, again, like webinar that we could do on this. But there's all these set-asides that exist in federal contracting, Alaska Native corporations, veterans. It goes like there's a whole list. And the system is gamed like you wouldn't believe. And it's amazing how this town works, where there are people who literally become the face of a company or a corporation to bid on projects up to X dollars because they have a federal set-aside that they get certain preferences in contracting, et cetera. So the system has gotten gamed so bad. And the broader point that that is important at the end is finally somebody is saying, okay, guys, I'm going to blow the whistle on it. I'm going to expose it. And that's what we need to have happen. And it's a shame it hasn't happened before, but at least Musk and Trump are doing it now.